Greetings and welcome. This is Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. I'm guided and led by Spirit. Trigger warning: the subject matters of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. Disclaimer: all cases, names, people are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. Disclaimer: all numbers used in this case pertain to the case context specifically and may not bear resemblance to your date of birth. And Heche. For some reason, the case has been pinging on me. And of course, the famous footage of her driving into a house at the end of the road, like a dead end, was quite horrific. And if you recall, there was a moment where she sits up in the gurney as they were trying to get her into the ambulance. And that moment, there was just a sense or a feeling, the energy coming off, let's say, the person in the gurney, known to us as Heche. The energy around there just seemed completely off. Very wrong, eerie. I would go as far as to say, didn't match how I felt feeling for Heche, let's say that. So a little bit odd. We are going to look at her date of birth. We're going to do a 369 on her date of birth and see what we pick up. And now this bigger chart here, I'll orientate you once we get there. But effectively only started with this bottom row that's what I was actually going to look at. And as I started looking at the numbers, and of course we go back to August. And of course, we go back to August 5 when the incident happened, and I kept on going back, even including some energy flow numbers, because obviously it happens August 5. So I wanted to see, for example, what was happening August 1, August 2, the build up to the event. And then, so we'll look at the energy numbers for that as well. Then I kept on going back all the way, and I stopped at July the 25th. And ironically, and this is important, ironically, July the 25th, we see a conflict here. 7 plus 25, 7. The 25th gives us the 25, 7, and July the 7th. 25, 7 conflict, right? And Heche, born 1969. Look at the number, 25-7. She is born 25 May. So she has another 25-7. And she has naturally another 25-7 in the second row. So depending on the person, and the reason why I'm going to start with this line of thought, and that is the speculation around her mental health during the incident, right? So I can't begin to tell you about Heche with all her numbers. You probably know more than me. I know her as an actress. I remember in some good movies. But I'm going to look at her date of birth from the perspective of, would she do what we know has taken place? 1, with her numbers. 2, are we going to look for evidence of mental health? And then we'll have a look at what happens in the main event to see if there's any matches. So originally when I pulled out the numbers, when you have 25-7, 25-7, or 3 numbers of the same, I'm not saying it will, can bring around, the word I use a lot is chaos, disorder. If you have too many numbers, can be problematic. But it also depends on other numbers the person may have and how they manage. And this is what the choices are we make. Numbers aren't fixed. You can go far left, far right, in the middle, wherever you put your dial for your number. It's not fixed. Now, with Anne, when we see numbers like 12-3, this is the giveaway, that I don't believe she would have out-and-out mental health issues. We'll go deeper. When someone has a 12-3 and a dominant 3 year, this is a very significant position, the day number. In other words, the way we see Anne when she's outdoors doing her thing, these are her dominant numbers here, which is the 30, outcome 3, the 12-3, and the 25-7. 3, for one thing, we can say about design, first impressions. There's elements of fashion, design, hair, makeup, jewelry, 3s. So in other words, whenever she's outdoors, she will ensure that she is in pristine condition, presentable to the world. Now, while I was telling you that, I saw a picture of her, supposedly, there's a picture of her the day she has her incident. There are 3 incidents, the third one being the finale into the house, right? But I did see a picture when I was looking for a picture of her, this person sitting in a car looking out her Mini Cooper or whatever car it was, looking worse for wear, looking horrible. I'm sorry. Someone that has a 12-3, 33 would rather die at home than go into the public looking like a scruffian. That's one point. It just so happens I know someone that has 777s. In fact, 2 people in the first 2 rows of their date of birth. And let me tell you, they are no slouches, highly intelligent, highly sophisticated, debonair, and Heche has numbers that tell me that she's in control. Okay. Now, we can all argue and say, well, because she's a high-profile celebrity earning the big money, they become a bit delusional. They get stuck in their own world. We've seen terrible example of actresses sitting at home for several years, that their face becomes their artistry, and they sculpt their face into some mess because they haven't got nothing better to do and focused on their ego. These top 2 rows here tell me there's very solidness here. Now, if we had to just look at, for example, just the middle row, because this is who she is outwardly, okay? And we can go into the internal elements in a minute. But the industry that she was in demands high fashion. It's community orientated. She has a slant towards feminine energy. And she is very effeminate, very feminine. The 257 is about the industry. 7 is the movie biz, comedy. I almost want to say the unfortunate part of her 25-7, and again, it's just part of and not the whole. that the difficulties and challenges she'll face as an artist, 257. So, yes, initially when I drew out her numbers and I saw the 3 sevens, I thought, usually can bring around issues. Can. I'm not saying it can't, but the combination that she has, these threes, is about control. Then we go further. 55, 10, 1, 37, 10, 1, 19, 10, 1, 10, 1, 1. This individual, and now I'm going to tell you that Anne is an individual. I'm not saying she's not capable of falling in love, having bad days, having good relationships, having bad relationships, doing well. But ultimately, when someone has a life path 1, they are very much the individual. In other words, regardless of the fame and the fortune and whatever, in my opinion, Anne would always consider herself first. She may be form part of the group. 12, 3 is a group number, a very sociable number. 30, outcome 3, the capacity to work within a large group of people, like being on a film set, being in studio, for example. But ultimately, she can play the team game, but ultimately she will always be the individual one. And this is going to be important in elements where we find people, celebrities, who are being managed. Now, I'm not talking about your agents in Hollywood, but handlers. What is the word I'm looking for? Monarch programming. She will always be the individual, which for me is another clue. What actually transpired on the day that this incident happened? I'm going to point out some more numbers. So I'm just going to say, if there are too many sevens, can bring around, let's be fair and disclosure, too many sevens can also bring around things like mental issues. Yes. But it's the numbers that surround those numbers that also will give us the final outcome of the person. So what am I getting to? In the intention, we note all these 4s here. So I would go as far as to say there is propensity for depression with all these 4s. Right? I'm not saying she's a depressive. In other words, acute depression. I'm saying she has the propensity for depression, feeling down. But she also has the mechanics, if you will, to get out of feeling down for herself. She can self-motivate as an individual. So although there are presence of 4s which would indicate depression, is for me not overwhelming. In other words, if we saw all the 4s here, and then again, I'm going to reiterate. So let's say, for example, beg your pardon, if there were all 4s here, where we see the 33, 6, 15, 6, 25, 7, plus all the 4s here, then I'd say, guys, the rumors about her depression and all that kind of thing it's very much like very close to 100% possible. But the fact, yeah, again, yeah, 33.6 in the normal, not all the bullshit we see around Hollywood, right? But a 33.6 in a human being who has a 33.6, very creative person, very spontaneous person, is the life of the party. So what I'm getting to, the 33-6 on its own is like a power station. Energy for days. So although she might have a propensity to feel down, she might feel get the blues from doing movies or comedy, but when you have an internal power station as robust as a 33-6, these fours, and even a 58-34 is going to be nothing. I feel in the case of Anne, and I can't say this in the real, but from the numbers point of view, what I'm seeing here, being in the industry, here is all her writing numbers. 58-13-4 is her writing number. The ability for large mass volumes of paper, 40 outcome 4. The capability of writing a manuscript, 22-4. 13-4, the novella or the novel, story. Screenplay, 22-4. So I would say, here's her creative numbers all sitting there. Here's even more creative numbers in her action, 18-9. That is genius number, 18-9. Ideas and communicating those ideas, 8, communicating, 9, good ideas. Again, so she has a stack of 7s, can bring around issues of mental health, yes, if she has too many 7s. However, she has a 4 here, which is the gate controller, can be a little bit internal here, 9s. But again, it's very, very creative numbers. In her outcome, her +9, when I was talking about someone that is in control, 30 outcome 3, 12-3, someone in control, right? She has a 39 hidden 39-12-3. Like, colloquially speaking, 39-12-3 is the control freak. So you telling me someone that deeply cares about herself as the individual, that it is in control of her life, now has an incident like we see on August the 5th. So let's go deep and see what is going on. August the 5th, what can we see from this day? I'm actually just sorry for zooming in too much. I'm just going to... So, okay, let me orientate the board and then we'll get going. So at the top left, July 25 all the way to July 31. Now it goes the other way, starting from this side, right to left, just due to the nature how I started the program or the board. What I did was, so the purple layer here on the second row and the third row are lined up together. So in other words, let me just show you visually, if you're watching visually. The top row is the energy read numbers. So I will see larger numbers. Okay. So in other words, August 1 will be my July 32. August 2 will be July 33. And then we get to the end of August 7 and we come around to where she, as the narrative goes, officially pass August 11. All right, so let's just look at the actual day. August 5, 2022 is when she has the accident in this zone here. Okay. The issue of this day for me is we have a 5 at the start of the day. And that alerts me that something is not quite right. Either, so it can mean a number of things. Either there's an issue with the narrative, because 5 is the bullshit number, lies, beg your pardon. Five also says human interference. So, for example, if Anne is driving along the road and crashes into a house, and I acknowledge that she was driving quite fast, but I'm just saying, she was on her own, driving the vehicle, driving the car, and crashes into a house. With a 5 at the start of that sequence says there is more than one person involved. So in other words, what caused Anne on that particular day, who we haven't heard a bad thing about for a while or whatever, right? All of a sudden has 3 accidents in one day, and then has this mighty accident at the end. News all around the world. Oh, this is strange. Why is there 1910 1 year? So already on this day, there's a number of issues. So 1910 1, operational. Why? So if we had to break it down, so here's 9, the idea or the death. There's a collective 10 1 with an outcome 1. Now we can argue these fall on Anne's numbers, right? She has a 19, 10, 1, 10, 1, 1. But let's first look at it generally. So there was an operation taking place, is what this is saying. Well, what do you mean there was an operation? Was the vehicle remote controlled? Was it Anne in the car? Or who was impersonating Anne? These are all options. Or it was Anne. There's a death, 13-4. Someone tampered with her brakes. Someone tampered with the vehicle. But it still doesn't explain the high rates of speed on a level road, right? So if she was going down a hill, she realizes she's not got brakes, so the car's obviously going to gain momentum, gain speed. But on a level road, okay. So coincidental that she's traveling very fast and the brakes don't work. 5, something's wrong with the narrative. Something's wrong. 8 can speak about mechanics, engineering, brain, biology. 6 is the anger. 6, violence. 6 is an accident, so here's a 6 in the zone, accident. But then on the left here, now I'm going kind of right to left. August 6. There's a 6 from the day and a 6 from the year. So we got 3 6s in the first 2 rows, which says something's wrong. And this was piquing my interest. Why would there be... So 6, so let's just say the number 6 in biology of the body speaks about head. 6 can also speak about burns. 6 is fire. But wouldn't it be odd that 6 can also be poison? We'll go deeper. 5, tampering with narcotics. So let's just say, for argument's sake, in the case of, and I'm seeing her face now, she was all part of the 27 Club, Janis Joplin. Thank you. Janis Joplin snarfed for many days, many years, many weeks, blah, blah, fish cakes, right? But on one particular day, she has a usual line, chills for the day, or that was the plan, and then boom, is hit with some kind of chemical explosion, as an example, but laced with poison. Okay. So why are there, and even August the 7th, We have the 7 and the 8 gives us the 15, 6. We have again triple sixes, 3 6s in the first 2 rows. Something is not right. Now we can agree, driving your car down the road at full speed into bricks, mortar, someone's house, car caught on fire, trapped in the car, can bring around this kind of distress. Yes, yes. But then why the next day is there a 14-5 here? Foul play, in my opinion. 14-5 is foul play, supported by 11-2, unlawful. The 4 in the 5 is a human being. So like I said at the start of August 5, there's a 5 here. So what interference was there to supposedly get Anne in a car, cause a scene around town, bumps into 2 people, bumps into a garage. There's a photograph of her in the car, or that person looking like something. The word crisis actor comes to mind. I've done a preliminary look at the numbers. I haven't got a final conclusion, but I have a sneaky suspicion someone's fooling someone. Someone fooled the world. August the 8th. Now we have an 8 plus 8 issue here. Now we can say the person that was in that vehicle and sustained those injuries would have been in some kind of distress. I'll just point out the issues and then we're going to backtrack. The day before the registered date of Anne Heche's death, which I think is a lie, we find a portal sequence here. 18-9, stack of 6s, blood ritual, blood, 6 blood. Blood and fire. 10-1. Now, why is that familiar? Oh, here's a 10-1, the day she supposedly has this car accident, right? But how can Anne be making decisions? So the group 10-1, termination 18-9, by people familiar. 1, when you see 16-7, handlers around her. The start of her death day, registered death day, 11-2, unlawful. 19-10-1 again. What's the coinkydink? So 25-7 and 16-7, we can say, I've mentioned handlers. We saw these numbers in the 27 Club. You guys can check the videos out if you haven't seen it. 27 Club, plug. 19-10-1. Whoever the person was that was in the car and died here, right, was euthanized, 12-3. Unlawful, 11-2. Homicide, 17-8. So whoever was the body that came out of that car, gurney, felt very weird, was euthanized eventually. So let's go back. So I'm calling foul on the Hoax show, allegedly with candy floss and lots of sugar and bullshit. August 4, 12-3, so 4. You see, when you're dealing with operational level, right? And let's just be clear, we know where Anne comes from in terms of the industry she works in and worked in and all the people she surrounded herself with. I'm not going to mention that. Let's just focus on Anne. So message, instruction 4, into the community. Oh, who's the community? The batch, right? The batch. What's the order? Ooh, 89. Murder? They wouldn't do that to their own people, would they? All right. So, in my opinion, based on the anomalies that I see here, one I didn't point out, August 14, technically 3 days after the registered date, right, of Anne's passing. I believe she died before the accident. The +3, so August 14 would effectively be the +3 of the death day, right? Or the registered death date. Let's just be clear. It starts with a 14-5. Bullshit. 13-4-22-4, we see the narrative being scripted. This is how the narrative must happen. So in other words, and we'll get into it, in other words, what transpired with Anne and the inner group that caused this outcome, right? And familiar around, particularly also not a good example, but example nonetheless, Taylor Swift and Travis relationship. Remember when the leak came out that it's all scripted and bullshit? Same numbers, 22-4, 13-4, the script. This is how we are going to tell the ending of Anne, is their philosophy. This is how we're going to end her story, 13-4. 22-4 is planned event, planned. How are we going to tell her story at the end? I've just been reminded. Maybe I'll just say so anyway, yeah. Only when I started recording or about to start recording this episode, for a long time, the where her name is and Death Investigation, there was "You Are Never Alone." And for the longest time, over 2 days, I could not take it off this thumbnail. You are never alone, right? So we got Handler City in play, 16-7. Handlers. We saw these numbers with Janice. We saw the same sequence of numbers with Jimmy. Motherfuckers. So we got the narrative being scripted for society, 22-4, 13-4. Oh, you must be joking. 28-10-1, 19-10-1, 10-1. The big narrative being vocalized across televisions around the world. The communique, the finale of Anne is, we will do some stock shots of her bumping into a garage, looking whoever that double was. And I can prove there was a double, by the way. We'll get there. Anyway. Then screams along the road and has this massive accident, right? That's the narrative. So I got to thinking, what was actually going on behind the scenes? Yes, I can't reinvent the narrative myself. So in other words, the numbers that I see on the day must be reflected in the 369, can also be reflected in the energy flow, right? So I wanted to see what is going on here. Let's go to the actual day of the incident, then we'll backtrack. In the energy flow sequence, in other words, the reason why I do this is because, yes, these numbers must tell a story, yes. But when we get bigger numbers, it tells a fuller, I can get more information, right? So the day what would be July 36, which doesn't exist in the world ever, whatever, energy, right? What do we see here? The day 49, 13, 4, 22, 4, 13, 4, 4. The narrative, the story, the death, the big reveal. So outwardly 16, 7. This is now when she actually has the accident, right? 16, 7 says, can, on one hand, say suicide. However, remember, it's the combination of numbers now, right? So this 16, 7, but we have a hidden 43, 7 staging number, made to look like staging, made to look like a suicide, right? That's what the shop window says. In fact, this is what's hidden, right? It's also a handler number. 16.7 is also the performance, the piece of art that you see in the street of a vehicle driving past a well-positioned camera on the road. Yes, every house has a camera at their doorbell now. Yes, perfect. But this 43.7 hidden, so yeah, we got a fake performance happening in front of our eyes, in other words, right? The following day, 37.10.1. Oh, never too far away from a hoax show. The higher-ups, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you 37.10.1. Hidden 44.8, the Grand Master Plan 22.4, and the Grand Master Design 44.8. 50 outcome 5. So, what would the writer say? The plot thickens. You'll recall August 5, I pointed out the 5 when, like, every number has a scale, but when there's a crash site, someone has been injured or murdered or died or whatever it is, there's a problem 5, right? Now we've got supersonic 5, which is 50 outcome 5. Common number at Jimi Hendrix scene. Common number around many of the 27 club scene. 14.5, foul play, stinky, stinky motherfuckers. Oh, dear me. August 4, the day before the incident, right? The day before. We get a hint on the actual 12.3. We get a hint, 18.9 as well, by the way. What am I getting to? 48.12.3. Now, this is in the energy flow. 48.12.3, the day before. And we have a hidden 39.12.3. Here's another hidden 39.12.3. Also in the sequence, here's it here on that day as well, hidden. Whose numbers are those? Who runs the Monarch programs? Who was taking out all the musicians and artists during the 60s and 70s and 80s until, and even including 2022? Let's go to the CIA, supported by the 15/6s. You ask the 15/6s and the 24/6s, because back in the day, 60s, 70s, and when all this taking out the vocal artists, FBI, CIA, and even the mob. Everyone is playing games here on the same board. Why would everyone be here at the same event? And we've even got hidden 40 outcome 4s here. By the way, this 40 outcome 4, the bigger boss, is present here in the build-up. Something is very fishy about this situation. Oh, look here, July 31. So this is technically 5 or 6 days before the event, right? 5 or 6 days. Why do we have a 31-4 here? Is that the contract or agreement being torn up? If we take it on a paper level? Because remember, it's all scripted. 22-4, 13-4. The reversal, 31-4, someone has torn up a contract or someone has broken a contract. The day before, in the same position, there's a woman that has an outburst here. It's amazing around these scenes, and Mr. Robin Williams has just popped in. Good sir. Motherfuckers. Fucking assholes. 30 outcome 3, someone has a pop. Followed by, now 30 outcome 3 is a dominant female. Oh, Anne's got a 30 outcome 3 here. So we can take it on the general dominant female, not I'm psychopathic, I'm going to kill myself and I'm going to make a stupid ass of myself in front of the public. She would never do that. She would rather bury herself in her own garden than go make a fool of herself outside. So what is going on? So when there's this outburst, who gets involved? 37-10-1s. 43-7. This is a breakup of a union. So whatever transpired, and we'll try to get that information, caused an outburst. The usual scenario, the gentleman found in his jacuzzi not so long ago. Just popped in. I'm seeing his face from Friends, is it, huh? Chemicals. Ah, the chemical explosion. So that's why there's a 31-4. This is why I believe the Hoax show, starting with the bump at the garage, then a bump on another car, then a screaming down the road, 44-8. So the 37-10-1s are smoking their fat cigars, motherfuckers, thinking, what are we going to do today? Oh, here's the plan, 44-8. There, it's in the real, 44-8, in the real. Can also bring around things like remote control devices. Oh, the day after the accident, there's a hidden 44-8. Could that have been a device? Why is there a 31-4 here? 31-4 at an anatomical level brings around the word, unfortunately, let's just say deceased. She's asked me to say deceased, rather. 38-11-2. There's a collective knowledge, 3 collective, 8 knowledge of what has transpired 5 days before the Hoax show. Homicide, 17-8. Didn't we see these numbers somewhere? Oh, the day after. The universe is screaming to us, guys, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. 5, bullshit. Look what's actually happened. The Illuminati, 37-10-1, have murdered Anne Heche. Those penguin motherfuckers. Those white privileged motherfuckers. So let's backtrack. Oh, so I mentioned on the paper level 31-4 contracts not being adhered to. Robin Williams again. So look here, 29-11-2, a common number around and Whitney Houston's just popped in. What's that? Mariah Carey and her family that all died in one weekend, or whatever the bullshit was. Who was it? Mariah Carey's family. 29/11/2. A deal is a deal, and the only way you break the deal is if you die. Either, I suppose, some could say, arguably, very lucky natural causes like old age. You keep making us money till you die, you mother, Or you get taken out and your contract is terminated, 31/4. 29/11/2 followed by 18/9. Something is strange in Hollywood. The burning hills of California, 42/6. Pigs, man. We have a portal sequence, 18/9, stack of sixes. Ironically, it reveals itself the day before her announcement, official death date. All bullshit. It's funny how the lies just seep through the gunk. Unfortunately, this 42/6 is not good. We saw it with Whitney Houston, not Whitney Houston, the Mariah Carey family, was it? You don't fulfill your contract, you will be sacrificed. I believe July the 24th, actually. It just keeps going back and back. We can go back and back and back, right? The 24th is, I believe, we have a hidden 31/4, 13/4. I believe she may have wanted to end this whole situation here. And we always find the 20 outcome, 2 outburst, 26/8, big argument causes disruption. Sixes. See, yeah, for the first time, we see the triple sixes out of chaos, which are revealing themselves after the fact. But now we're seeing it play out before. Oh, 39/12/3, yeah. Hidden 33/6. So here's Anne, yeah. 27/9 club, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the next day here. 27/9. So unfortunately, on August the 5th, 2022, we were, in my opinion, with a sprinkling of bullshit, all allegedly, we were treated to a hoax show, and that she was taken out before the accident, in my opinion. And I cannot express even more how disgusting them assholes are in Holly. Then there's a space, Wood, right? Motherfuckers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, another treacherous con on the human collective, desecration of people, all for their savage self. Bye for now.